Hi, hello, vanakkam, and welcome back to yet another episode on your favorite Little's Law YouTube channel. So today we are going to discuss about one of the most interesting questions that's been asked by one of our subscriber. And the question is, under what scenario do I require automation script? So it's not just a one-line answer that you can use for this scenario or you can use for this scenario. It's like I always have that in mind that okay, this can be say, used in several scenarios. So I'm going to list all of them down one by one. There are like 6 scenarios. So please do watch the entire video where you can understand like what are the scenarios that you can use, and I am going to explain that under three in a star-based approach, like why should we use, and I'll give you an example on how we can use this script. So how can we effectively use this automation script? So please do watch the entire video. And before we move on to this video, this is me, Yosan Shanmugam. I welcome you all to our Little's Law YouTube channel. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't subscribed it yet, and give a thumbs up if you like this video, and share the video with your friends and colleagues. And as you all know, we are having a training session. So for those who want to move to performance testing career as their career in 3 months, you can just join the session tomorrow. That's going to happen by 12 p.m. IST. And if you haven't, if you missed that training, you can watch that there in the recording session. But if you are in the live session, you can ask more questions and we can discuss a lot about all the performance testing related topics. And yeah, moving to this video all once again, and now we'll move on to the video, and the video is about the interview questions and what are the scenarios that require the automation scripting. So we'll start them one by one, and out of which the very first part is the complex business workflows. When I say about complex business workflows, so why do we need scripting, or why do we need automation scripting in complex business scenarios? The first thing is in real world applications, as we all know, like whatever we tested, they are all like real world applications. So users, like we as a user, we often perform multi-step operations, right? It's not just one step operation. We do multi-step operations, and each step involves dependencies on the previous one. And standard tools may not have built-in template to replicate these workflows. So that is the reason we use automation scripts. And for an example, like we do a login, and then we search for a product and we add the product to the cart, and then we apply a coupon code and we check out and make a payment. So in this scenario, how does the script help? So automation scripts, for example, in JMeter or K6, we can simulate these sequential steps by maintaining the session data, like we call it as the cookies or token or whatever the bearer token or whatever the token part, and we pass these necessary information, which is for example like product ID, the coupon codes between steps. So by doing all these, you are able to complete the complex business scenarios, right? So that's all about the very first scenario. So why do we use the automation scripts, or why do we use the automation scripts in the in performance testing? And the second part is the dynamic data handling. So when it comes to dynamic data handling, so why do we need to use automation scripts in dynamic data handling? So in performance testing, unique or dynamic data is often required for each virtual user to avoid the caching effects and maintain the realism. So I have discussed a lot about what is caching and how to do this caching and how does this caching works. And also to maintain the realism, yes, we have to emulate the real-time user emulation. So these are the two things that we have to avoid caching, and then we have to maintain the realism. So for this, standard configurations might not support such dynamic variations. Say for example, like when you're testing a search feature and the user 1 searches for laptop and user 2 searches for smartphones. So in this scenario, how does the script helps? How does this automation script helps in performance testing? So the custom scripts can fetch data from the external file like CSV or databases to provide unique search terms or user credentials for each test iteration. So this is where the automation scripts that helps you in the performance testing. So as we all know, like we were using parameterization. So for that again, these custom scripts, these automation scripts that we create for performance testing will help us to fetch data from external files or databases to provide the unique search items. And moving on to the third part, which is the custom protocols. So some applications use proprietary communication protocols which are not supported by default in tools like JMeter or LoadRunner. Say for example, like communicating using custom protocols to send sensor data to the server, or like MQs, or like there are like several protocols. You can name it anything. We always face these issues, right? So whenever the client asks us to test something and we might be in a situation like there are like some custom protocols that we normally built in for inbuilt tools, inbuilt protocols. So in that scenario, how does the script serve? So we can write custom plugins, or we can use advanced scripting capabilities to encode and decode the messages in the required protocol format. So by doing this, we can actually fix these custom protocol issues. So these are some of the issues, or these are some of the challenges that we face, and this is the way we can mitigate the issue. And moving on to the fourth one, that is the API chaining. So many applications, like I would say, like nowadays, like 90% of the applications uses API because it's easy to integrate, like as you all know. And many applications involve APIs where the responses from one API is required to make subsequent requests. So standard tools may not manage this dependency efficiently. So for example, login and getting an authentication token and using the token to fetch the user profile and post a status update. So for all these, the scripts allow you to extract data, like for example, the token from one API response and use it in the subsequent request. So this is where the API chaining comes in, and so we actually have to write some automation scripts to automate all these performance testing related topics in terms of collecting, extracting the data from one API response and then passing it to the subsequent request. So for all these, we need to have the automation scripts. And moving on to the next part, which is the conditional workflows. So why at this point? So applications often present different paths to user based on actions or permissions, and without scripting, replicating this branching logic is challenging. It's very challenging, as we all know. For example, user 1 has access to savings account and he chooses to transfer money, but on the other case, the user 2 in the testing, he has access to a credit card and he chooses to check the statement. So both these users has different access levels, different authentication levels, different authorization levels, and they are actually doing completely different transactions, right? So the automation scripts can include conditions, like for example an if-else logic to simulate these varied user journeys accurately. And these conditions are these logics, let's say for example a if logic or a while or a for or whatever we name it. So all these comes under the conditional for loops, and these are done using the programming, like through the automation scripts. And then finally the last part, which is the error simulation. So why do we need automation scripts in the error simulation part? Applications need to be tested under adverse conditions to ensure they handle errors gracefully and they don't crash. So that's the main reason that we are writing automation scripts during the performance testing. And for an example, when you're testing a payment gateway, you will simulate incorrect credit card details, or you'll be forced to emulate timeout scenarios. So in these scenarios, you can use these scripts to introduce delays, invalid data, or unexpected sequences of operations to observe how the system reacts, right? We always do that. So on overall, a practical takeaway, what do we get out of it? So automation scripts make it possible to model complex user behaviors and test scenarios that the tools alone cannot achieve. And they also bring the flexibility and the realism to performance testing by enabling dynamic data use, conditional flows, and handling of unique protocols. And writing such scripts will often require programming language in programming knowledge in languages like Java, Groovy, or JavaScript, and depending on the tool that's being used. So if you need a more practical example on any of these challenges, you can always comment me in the comment section. I'll come up with the next video for you, and we'll see in our next video. It's not just about automation script, it's about custom script. So under what scenarios we do use custom scripts in performance testing. So until I meet you in the next video, it's bye bye from Mr. Shanmugam, and if you're at Law YouTube channel, take care and bye bye.